This is Power Hour with Gabriella Power.
Hello and welcome to Power Hour. I'm Gabriella Power. Thank you for joining us. The BBC has been exposed once again for its fake, false and misleading coverage of Donald Trump. This time the BBC is back in the spotlight. Following revelations, the organisation knew it was providing false claims by suggesting that Donald Trump wanted to shoot a critic of his, Liz Cheney. Now, although the BBC acknowledged in an internal document that its coverage was inaccurate, the BBC has never issued a public correction to its viewers. But who is surprised by that? The BBC's false reports aired several times in the days leading up to the November 2024 election, but no correction. The Telegraph has revealed that an internal memo examining allegations of bias stated BBC News accepted that the Liz Cheney story was not covered accurately by the BBC, and the Editorial Guidelines and Standards Committee concluded errors were made on this specific issue. And as I mentioned, there was not just one report, there were several. During broadcasts on BBC World News America, one presenter claimed that Donald Trump, quote, appeared to suggest Liz Cheney should face a firing squad for her stance on foreign policy. Another presenter on BBC News Channel said to a guest, he, meaning Donald Trump, is out there on the campaign trail saying he wants people to shoot Liz Cheney in the face. Is that the sort of thing women react well to? It's not just the BBC. Media outlets around the world ran with this story, suggesting that Donald Trump is this violent psychopath. Here's CNN's coverage.
4 days out from Election Day, and former President Donald Trump is escalating his violent rhetoric, suggesting one of his most prominent critics, the former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, should be fired upon.
And so did Australia's mainstream media.
Donald Trump has been accused of using dangerous rhetoric after suggesting guns should be trained on the face of Republican critic Liz Cheney. The presidential candidate is now being investigated over whether he's violated death threat laws just days out from the election.
And what about Australia's taxpayer-funded media?
Donald Trump's comments about a prominent Republican critic have caused some outrage. Just tell us about those comments.
Joe, this has really overshadowed Donald Trump's Rust Belt push. He made comments with right-wing TV host Tucker Carlson about Liz Cheney, a former Republican congresswoman, but an outspoken critic of Donald Trump. And certainly there's no love lost between the two. But Donald Trump certainly took that acrimony a step further in that interview with Tucker Carlson, describing her as a very dumb person, a war hawk, and even raising the hypothetical, I guess, of her facing a firing.
Wow, all of those journalists, were they telling you the truth? No, they were once again lying to you. Judge it for yourself. This is what Donald Trump actually said about Liz Cheney, criticising her for pushing war.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face. You know, they're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy.
Yeah, so Donald Trump was describing Ms. Cheney as a war hawk who was advocating for sending soldiers into battle while she remained safely in DC. That was a point that he was making. It is no wonder that trust in the legacy media is at a record low, and it's no wonder that there are so many people who don't like Donald Trump in Australia because the media keeps misleading its viewers. Erika Kirk has slammed conspiracy theorists for peddling wild claims about her late husband, Charlie Kirk. Look, I'm all for questions being asked, but some of the theories that have been going around online have been absolutely disgusting. Here is Erika Kirk on Fox News.
Trying to guess where Charlie is.
Can I have one thing? Can I have one thing? Can my children have one thing? Everything was public. We will be building the most beautiful memorial for my husband at Turning Point USA, and it will be for the world to see, and it will be spectacular, and it will have basically museum style for our Charlie, for my Charlie. But can I have one thing? Can my babies have one thing where we hold it sacred, where my husband is laid to rest, where I don't have to be worried about some secular revolutionary coming and destroying my husband's grave while my daughter is sitting there praying? One thing. This is my husband. Yes, he was Charlie Kirk to the world, and I know so many people love my husband, and I am grateful for that. But this is my husband, and I want to be able to have one thing left that is sacred to our family, to my in-laws, to my babies, and to my parents. One thing.
Joining us now for our panel is Josh Hammer, Senior Editor-at-Large at Newsweek, and Jeff Cruer, broadcaster and commentator. Thank you both so much for joining me. So powerful listening to Erika Kirk there. Josh, it just gives me chills. I mean, Erika has shown so much courage. I think the way that she has been treated by some of these conspiracy theorists and podcasters has been absolutely disgusting. You have been forced to respond to conspiracy theories yourself about Charlie's death too. Josh, can I get your reaction? How do you feel listening to Erika there?
It's amazing to finally hear Erika Kirk speak out with some force. She by her very own admission has decided to take something of a back seat, Gabriella. She was citing the book of Nehemiah in the Bible for the proposition that when you are building, you have no time to try to lecture and to deal with nonsense. And I'm very sympathetic to that, but I think a lot of us were really hoping to hear her voice. And we have now heard it. We have now heard it unmistakably. We have now heard it very clearly. That is a widow who is righteously indignant, who is defiant against the total unmitigated hyper conspiratorial gutter trash BS that has been flinging around really ever since her late husband was assassinated. And I was one of the earliest folks, I think, to start getting it really bad. Then the usual suspects, Candace Owens and folks like that, started moving on. Broadly speaking, from me to others, mostly to Turning Point USA staff, and ultimately including Erika Kirk herself. And I count myself in good company, frankly, that I have been part of this insane operation to try to smear and besmirch us, because I am right there with Erika Kirk among those who've been smeared by these terrible people there. They will not win, Gabrielle. These people will not win. And it was really amazing to hear Erika Kirk say all those things earlier today. I hope to see even more of that, hopefully, in the weeks and months to come.
Yeah, absolutely, Josh. Couldn't agree with you anymore. Jeff, I want to get your reaction as well. I mean, the way Erika Kirk has been treated, when you look at some of the theories online, the way she's criticised for being strong and speaking out and doing media appearances, it's unbelievable. But as Josh just said there, she was just so powerful, finally hearing from her.
Well, I mean, I've been impressed with her from day one. I mean, she made courageous statements right after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. She went before the nation. She mesmerized the nation with her words. She uplifted all of us. She got us through this horrible tragedy with her leadership. She's going to be a fantastic leader for Turning Point. The attacks against her have been atrocious. But I do think when the trial occurs and when the evidence comes out, that's going to lessen. People are going to understand what happened. There's just a lot of questions right now. We're not getting a lot of information about this killer. And more of that will be coming out in the days ahead. But she's just impressed me from the very beginning with how she's handled it. Such poise, such grace, such courage. And I think, you know, her statements about this just right on the mark. I mean, it's outrage that she's expressing, but it's justified outrage. For you don't attack a widow like this and children that are innocent in an organization that Charlie Kirk built and that is going to thrive, by the way, because it's going to grow bigger and stronger than ever now in his horrible death.
Yes, it will. And Charlie will never be forgotten. He was the most Googled person this year. And so if there's any silver lining, it's that he's known by everyone around the world. Everyone knows his message. Look, I want to ask you about the BBC. It's had to admit it misled viewers again after suggesting that Donald Trump had called for Liz Cheney to be shot in the face. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the show, most media outlets did the same thing. I mean, that's what they were suggesting. But an internal memo acknowledged that BBC's coverage was inaccurate, but the BBC never issued a public correction. Josh, I mean, it's a pretty shocking claim to get wrong, to suggest, and then not even bother making a correction.
Yeah, how many scandals does the BBC need to have until British taxpayers just pull the plug once and for all? I mean, I have a philosophical problem, Gabriella, with the entire notion of state-run media because I don't know, call me conspiratorial, but in my mind, whenever I think of state-run media, I immediately think of Pravda, of literal Soviet propaganda at the very height of communism. There's really nothing good down that road. A free and flourishing and independent press, I would argue, is a foundation and a bedrock for a free and flourishing democracy and constitutional republic. So I object on philosophical grounds. But even if you don't object on philosophical grounds to state-run media, surely you should object on grounds of just ranking competence, right? I
Yeah.
mean, this is hardly the first time that the BBC has been caught. We had yet another scandal recently at the BBC, a monumental scandal, probably the largest scandal in the modern history of the BBC, literally just a few weeks ago, pertaining to this deeply deceptively edited tape about Donald Trump, what he said versus what he didn't say on January 6, 2021. The BBC, incidentally, also on various other international coverage, foreign affairs issues, their coverage of the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza has been nothing short of repulsive and atrocious. The Telegraph, the British newspaper, has recently been calling out just the sheer number of lies that they have told about that particular war over the past couple of years as well. So again, I object to state-run media on philosophical grounds, but even if you don't share my sympathies, surely just being so utterly wrong and stupid and failing to even have the humility to make amends for it, to issue a retraction, to issue a correction, to basically just say, mea culpa, our bad. Surely that's not too much to ask for, I guess, unless you're a hoity-toity, snotty British public media tycoon like the heads of the BBC. Shame on them.
Yeah, well, even Australia's taxpayer-funded media issued a correction. You know, of course, that their coverage was wrong, but they at least acknowledged that they got it wrong. Jeff, as Josh mentioned, I mean, this comes after that huge editing scandal where they deliberately, deceptively edited Donald Trump to make it look like he was inciting violence.
Right. Well, can you say biased? I mean, it's obviously the biggest problem is they're horribly biased against conservatives, against people that are not leftists. They hate Donald Trump, obviously, because he's pushing a "Make America Great Again" agenda, and they went out to try to get him, and they deceptively edited. I mean, something that the world saw. It was so obvious, and it's something that they should pay for. I mean, financially they're liable for what they did, and it's just one series of mistakes and outrages after another. And I wish the British people could free themselves of the BBC and find more outlets that are telling the truth, because obviously the BBC is not telling the truth, and that's the problem. And it's a sad state of affairs that you have a country like the UK that's got to rely so much on a corrupt network like the BBC. Thankfully, here in this country, we don't have that kind of a situation. We did what we did with PBS, took away the funding from a very left-wing entity. And I think now the free market should determine, what networks are the best as far as viewership goes. It shouldn't be forced from any government entity.
Let's talk about Jasmine Crockett. She's running for the US Senate, and her ad is pretty hilarious. It's just a video of Donald Trump calling her a low IQ person on repeat, which I'm not sure is the best strategy for her, the best PR strategy. I think everything that I've seen, people are saying I agree with the ad. But she says that Mamdani's victory in New York City has shown her that she can win Texas. Listen to this.
Let me tell you something. Mamdani has not backed down whatsoever from his rhetoric against the president. In the Oval Office, he stood there and he said what he said about him being a fascist, yet he was able to win those voters. So Democrats that believe the only way that you can win is by being soft and sounding like a Republican, that is not true. What people are looking for are people that are tough and are fighters and are going to fight for them.
Jeff, what are her chances?
Well, on my show, Ringside Politics, we do an award every year called Turkey of the Year. And Jasmine Crockett was our winner for 2025 as our Turkey of the Year. She is an embarrassment. She's a joke. I'm sorry, she is low IQ. I think the president is right about her. She doesn't understand this is Texas. We're talking about the Lone Star State. We're not talking about New York City. We're not talking about Vermont. Okay, someone with her ideology, which is extreme left wing, is not going to win a Senate seat in the great state of Texas. What this is a grift. What this is a way for her to make some money. She already has problems with her condo dues that she's not paying, and obviously some bills that are stacking up. So this is a way for her to fill her coffers a little bit. She's not winning. And I think the more we focus on her, the better it is for the Republicans.
Josh, what do you make of this? I want your reaction. And I'm sure we've mentioned this before. What does it actually say about the Democrats?
Yeah, Jasmine Crockett is not just low IQ. She might be the lowest IQ member of the U.S. Congress in my entire adult lifetime. I barely even know where to begin when it comes to this woman who seemingly came out of nowhere. As recently as like 2 years ago, I'm not even sure that I had heard of Jasmine Crockett. At this point, Gabrielle, what I think she's trying to do. She's trying to kick out Ayanna Pressley, Massachusetts, in the squad. So the squad is AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib. They're basically the John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and George Harrison there. She's trying to replace Ayanna Pressley to become the new Ringo Starr of the squad, basically. And I guess in order to become a rising star in the far left, the Democratic Party, you have to actually sound really stupid. So, for instance, the way that Jasmine Crockett talks, a lot of people don't know this. That's actually not how she naturally talks. Jasmine Crockett was educated at very elite private schools. She knows how to talk like a normal human being, but she puts on this oh, I'm just like off the street kind of vibe there, again, because it's all part of the act. But whatever whatever the absurd parts about her whole public persona is, it pales in comparison to her actual public policy proposals. Just to give you one example, earlier this week, there was a clip that was going viral, at least in my social media feeds, of Jasmine Crockett calling for a tax reprieve, just calling for a cessation of taxation on Black people, which she says will be a way of doing reparations for Black people due to slavery. I can't think possibly of why that might not be a good idea. Oh yeah, I can think of literally like a million reasons as to why that is a grossly immoral, horrifically irresponsible, and utterly atrocious and egregious public policy idea. It's appallingly racist, but it's the way that she thinks. It's the way that she is hardwired, because she is hardwired to say the most extreme, clickbaity stuff imaginable that will get all sorts of plaudits in her left-wing blue-checked echo chamber, but have no resemblance whatsoever to the sentiments of the American people. Jeff is totally right. Texas is still Texas. I lived in Texas for 4 years. I know the state of Texas pretty well. They're not going to fall for this garbage next November.
It's absolutely wild. But then you look at some of the left-wing media outlets and how they treat Jasmine Crockett. They call her a star. And then, I was watching a clip with her on MSNBC, and there were tears between Jasmine Crockett and the host because they got along so well. They're fawning over her. Let's talk about Gavin Newsom. He's unveiled his upcoming memoir. The book is called Young Man in a Hurry, a memoir of discovery, and it is scheduled for release February next year, less than a year before Newsom completes his second term as governor. Now, Newsom says that the memoir is a truly vulnerable book and a story of an outsider on the inside. Let's just take a look.
A lot of people look at me, the stark white shirt, the blue suit, and the gelled hair, and they think, oh, I know this guy. I know this guy better than I'd ever want to know him. I get it. This is a story of a kid who always felt like he wasn't quite enough. This is a truly vulnerable book. It was incredibly hard, even painful to write. It's a story about living between two worlds, one of wealth and privilege, and the other of more modest upbringing, the outsider on the inside, the interloper who learned to feel comfortable in many rooms.
We've got his podcast. We now have a book. Jeff, I wonder why he's doing this. I'm sure it has nothing to do with 2028.
Right. My gosh, he's an embarrassment, for one. Is he trying to make us feel sorry for him? The vulnerable. Give me a break. This guy has been the best thing for the state of Texas, the best thing for the state of Florida. He's driven
and the
all
worst
kinds
thing
of
for Californians.
Right. Driven all kind of businesses and people out of his state. Who wants to live under his leadership? Look at what happened during the fires. Look at how he's handled the riots. Look at what he has done as far as trying to antagonize President Trump every opportunity he can. He's a phony. He's a fraud. He comes across as someone that doesn't have one genuine bone in his body. Of course, he's running for president. He's ramping up his rhetoric against President Trump to try to appease the far left in the Democrat Party, who are obsessed with Trump derangement syndrome. They just want somebody that's going to attack Donald Trump. So that's what he's doing. And he's seeing Kamala Harris fall. So he says he's got the road to the nomination. Fine. Let them nominate Gavin Newsom. Again, I think that'll be a gift to the Republican Party. we'll see what happens.
But then he is doing well in the polls. You know, it's really hard to believe this, Josh, but Newsom, he's rising in the polls. The latest Public Policy Institute of California poll found that both Newsom personally surged in popularity in the second half of the year, and Newsom's favourability rating has gone up from 46% in June to 56% in November. Josh, why is that? I mean, is it working? Are people believing him when he's doing his bizarre social media strategy with his podcasting? Also on the book, I mean, we've just had Kamala Harris's book, and then her media tour was even more painful. And now we have Gavin Newsom's. I mean, haven't we had enough?
Well, a couple of things going on here. One is that California is still a very left-wing state. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I remember when there was Gavin Newsom's recall election. This was a few years ago in 2021. A lot of people thought that would be a close election. It wasn't. Gavin Newsom won by a veritable landslide. I forgot the exact margin, 25, 30 points. It was a huge, huge margin back there in 2021. And he's crazy. He's also the first governor he's literally the first governor in the entire history of the state of California to see a population decline. So California, ever since it was established as a state in the mid-19th century, in every decennial census, every 10 years ever since that time, they managed to gain people because everyone wants to go to California, California dreaming, Hotel California. California is where you go to kind of live the American dream, the great Wild West, the new frontier, et cetera, et cetera. He's literally the first governor to be active governor when in the 2020 census, California's population declined since the previous census in 2010. So his policies are atrocious, but there's something of a Stockholm syndrome going on, I guess, in the left-wing mentality. I mean, you look at these outrageous policies when it comes to crime, when it comes to taxation, when it comes to homelessness, drug needles, all the above. And I guess they just say, you know what, sign me up for more of that. I'm just thankful personally that I don't have to actually do so. But I think the second and arguably more important point than just the fact that Californians are generally speaking left-wing is really this. Because they are left-wing, they hate Donald Trump. They obviously, Californians, by and large, despise Donald Trump. And if you can succeed in at least having the optics of opposing Donald Trump, of standing for tyranny and fascism and all these various buzzwords they toss about there, if you can successfully convey those optics, then your popularity in a left-wing state is set to rise. That's exactly what Gavin Newsom has done. That's half the point of his podcast and things like that, is to give off the impression, the optics of really standing against Donald Trump. Then you throw into the mix his outrageous redistricting operation there. So I'm not shocked that his approval ratings in California are rising. I personally, Gabrielle, would definitely not approve of Gavin Newsom if I were living in the Golden State, but I am not shocked that Californians, by and large, are approving of him now.
Let's talk about Ilhan Omar. Donald Trump has slammed Ilhan Omar, saying she does nothing but complain during a speech in Pennsylvania.
That's for Minnesota, you know. That's called the great big Minnesota scam with one of the dumbest governors ever in history.
Donald Trump also taking aim at Tim Walz there. But, Jeff, this comes amid questions about how much Ilhan Omar knew about this massive fraud scandal in Minnesota. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think she knew a lot about it. I mean, I think Ilhan Omar is a fraud because we know that she married her brother, that she is someone that has allegiance to Somalia and not to the United States of America. Again, she's another person that has vile comments constantly about President Trump. She's part of this whole left-wing leadership of the Democratic Party. They're all, getting behind her and supporting her now that President Trump has attacked her. But I think this whole thing about the Somalian fraud going on in Minnesota is a big issue. And she's all intertwined in that. And it certainly hurt, as you heard President Trump say about Tim Walz, it's hurt Tim Walz. I heard a commentator say it's the biggest scandal in Minnesota history. And I do think she is connected to it. I think she's connected to a lot of fraud. And I think we need to investigate her. And from what I understand, that the Trump administration is doing that. She should be investigated. And we've got to look across the country of how many others that are supposedly representing Americans do not have allegiance to this country. And that's what I think she represents, someone that does not have allegiance to the United States of America.
Josh, an expert has told Fox News Digital that an ongoing decline in American assimilation and a deep fear of being accused as racist, that they are key factors in this massive fraud scheme in Minnesota that is coming to light. Of course, we know those details. Minnesota is facing one of the largest social services fraud scandals in US history, and prosecutors have since charged more than 70 defendants, with a large percentage of them members of Minnesota's Somali community. Would you agree that about those factors, that an ongoing decline in American assimilation and also this fear of being accused of racist, that they played into this?
Oh yeah, 1,000% yes. Gabriella, I've been speaking on this all the time, actually, on my show, The Josh Hammer Show. I've been beating this drum very hard. The assimilation paradigm in America has fundamentally failed. Frankly, it failed a long time ago. It failed probably decades ago at this point. You know, America has had the same legal immigration regime now since the Hart-Sellers Act, which was passed in the mid-1960s. We haven't changed our legal immigration, roughly the same number of 1 million-ish new legal immigrants a year, for the past 60 years. And there's all sorts of data showing that an increasingly high percentage of second and third generation immigrants from Latin America, from Spanish-speaking cultures, now speak Spanish at home. Just anecdotally, having lived in Houston, Texas, now living in South Florida, very heavily Spanish-speaking areas. You know, when I fly into Miami International Airport, good luck getting an Uber driver who speaks English. It's virtually impossible. I mean, this is an all too frequent occurrence, really, not just in Florida, but in way too many parts of the country. And then you throw into the ultra combustible mix the uniquely toxic presence of a lot of deeply unassimilated Muslims who hold deeply anti-American, anti-Western civilization views. This is not exactly a new problem either. We know that Dearborn, Michigan has been an Arab majority, or trending towards an Arab majority town, for many, many years now. There was this horrific recent footage of the mayor of Dearborn shouting down a concerned Christian citizen, calling him an Islamophobe, because he had the temerity, he had the chutzpah to complain that Dearborn was renaming a street over a murdered Hezbollah jihadist. I mean, unbelievable stuff there. I saw one poll going back 2 years now. There was one poll that was taken less than 3 weeks after the October 7, 2023 pogrom by Hamas against Israel. There's one poll of American Muslims said that 57.5% of American Muslims thought that the Hamas pogrom, that this absolute horrific barbaric slaughter, was either justified or somewhat justified. That's astonishing. I mean that in and of itself, I think, says really all you need to know about the state of current American quote unquote assimilation.
Yeah, no, it's so concerning. We are running out of time, I'm afraid, but I need to get from both of you a winner, loser, and the wildest media moment of the year. And if we have time, the challenge for the leaders ahead. Jeff, let's start with you. It's been a massive year. I'd love to hear who you think the winner was, the loser, and yes, some crazy media moments.
Lots of losers, lots of losers. I would say maybe Chuck Schumer might have been certainly one of the biggest losers on the Democrat side with the Schumer shutdown. He is losing his grip on the Democrat Party. Obviously, they're looking to AOC to be the next senator from New York. If she doesn't run for president, I don't think she's going to run for president. I think she's going to be the next senator. So he is losing his popularity, losing his grip. His handling of this whole shutdown issue was atrocious. So I'd certainly put him at the very top as far as losers of the year. As far as winners, I say Donald Trump. I mean, it's been an incredible start to his administration. I think he hit the ground running in the second term. He's learned from some of the mistakes that were made in Trump 1. And I think it's been an incredible 11 months. I mean, I think we are making progress in a host of areas. I wish the Republicans in Congress would give him more support. I mean, I wish we'd have a better RNC. But as far as President Trump himself, I think he's done an amazing job. And as far as some of the incredible media moments, I mean, I certainly think you had the Coldplay concert where the couple was caught kissing.
We have that, Jeff. Let's play it. That was absolutely wild. Here we go.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, look at these two. All right, come on. You're okay? Oh, what? Either they're having an affair or they're just very shy.
I mean, that was unbelievable. It just went completely viral. Josh, I have to get your thoughts now. Winner, loser, wildest media moment.
So, yeah, look, definitely no shortage of options on either side. So my winner of the year is Marco Rubio, who I think was really born for this month. I think Marco Rubio, even when he was U.S. Senator, really aspired to be Secretary of State. Anyone who knows him at all knows that he is deeply passionate about foreign affairs, foreign relations. I think that he has been nothing short of an exceptional, a borderline historic, actually, Secretary of State. Looking at the sheer number of peace deals that the United States has orchestrated in the very first year of the presidency, he is well spoken. He's articulate. He is absolutely crushing it currently in his Secretary of State position. My loser of the year, I think Chuck Schumer is a very, very good answer, by the way. But if I had to give, if I had to give another name besides Chuck Schumer, I would probably say Tim Walz for all the reasons that we just discussed. This is the single largest bilking of the United States taxpayer probably in the history of the country, and he knew it all along. And he just looks like an utter fool. Hopefully, frankly, his butt ends up going to the local penitentiary sooner rather than later. My challenge ahead would be Russia-Ukraine peace. That continues to be just this thing that just cannot quite be gotten there. The administration, they're trying so hard. They just can't quite do it, at least yet there. God willing, we'll have better news come 2026. As far as my viral media moment, I think it has to be, I mean, going back again to our conversation earlier, I think it has to be Erika Kirk's speech at Charlie Kirk's memorial. I mean, that was one of the more extraordinary things. I mean, I think you had tens, if not hundreds of millions of people around the world just glued to the television, watching every word there. It was just extraordinary television. That clip will be with us for many years to come.
Wasn't it absolutely extraordinary? Josh Hammer, Senior Editor at Large at Newsweek, and Jeff Cruer, broadcaster and commentator. Thank you both so much for joining us. Wish we could have kept speaking for longer. Really appreciate you having both of you on the show.
Thank you, Gabrielle.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Joining us now is Research Fellow at the Institute of Public Affairs, Mia Schlicht. Mia, great to see you again. Thank you for joining us. Let's start with the UK, where the polling consistently shows that people are not happy with Starmer's Labor Party. The latest YouGov poll for The Times and Sky News shows that Reform UK remains well in front on 27%, which is an 8-point lead over any other party. Labor sits on 19% and the Conservatives are on 18%, which is down 1 point. Mia, not exactly hard to work out what that tells us, but what do you make of this recent poll?
Well, things are just getting worse and worse for the Prime Minister there in the UK. Look, he's holding on for dear life at this point. Unless there is a drastic course correction, I don't really see those numbers getting any better for him. And the rumours of a leadership spill, I think they would continue to be given weight. I mean, the reality is here, unless they start standing up for Britain's values, then Britons will continue to turn away from them. And it's the same case with the Tories. I mean, the Tories recently have managed to land a couple of punches here and there, but again, that won't carry much weight unless they actually start speaking about the things that those in the UK care about. And that's why we're seeing such a large amount of support for Farage, because whilst he has had to weather a couple of political storms as of recently, he managed to survive those because fundamentally the base is there to support him, because they know that he is willing to speak about the issues that Britons for so long have not been allowed to talk about, and that's issues like crime, immigration and the economy. He is actually there to stand up for those in Britain and to create a change, and that is what voters are desperate for. They are desperate for some kind of change.
Well, Nigel Farage has met with the leader of France's National Rally Party, Jordan Bardella. They met in London, and if the polls are right, they could be the next leaders of Britain and France. So Nigel Farage and Jordan Bardella held a private lunch in London, and they reportedly discussed building a patriotic alliance and pushing tougher immigration policies across Europe. They reportedly discussed small boat crossings and energy policy, particularly nuclear energy. And Jordan Bardella told The Telegraph that under his leadership, if he's elected, he would rewrite French border policy to help the UK tackle the small boat crisis in the Channel. Mia, what do you make of this?
Well, I think the wording here is quite key. When they talk about a patriotic alliance, that absolutely nails it. You've got two leaders here who actually want to start putting their countries first. And for so long, we have had very, very weak leaders in Europe who are so concerned with their globalist agenda that they have fundamentally failed to put the needs of their country first. And then when you look at issues such as migration, France knows better than perhaps any other country in Europe just how bad it can get when migration goes out of control, and how it can affect your economic infrastructure and how it can tear away at the social fabric of your society if it is not done in a controlled and planned for manner. And the system at the moment, the one-in, one-out system between UK and France, clearly is not working. It's a band-aid solution, and voters are pretty aware of that. So we've got leaders like Starmer who are putting their head in the sand, hoping that the immigration crisis will just go away and that somehow voters will just forget that this is an issue that they care about. But at the end of the day, it affects almost every aspect of their life. It completely tears away the economic and social infrastructure. And if leaders aren't going to face up to the issue, if they're not going to start talking about it, then other leaders will come in to fill that space and voters will flock towards them. And I think that's what we're seeing here, both in France and in the UK.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you just look at Starmer and he's been so hopeless on immigration. Just on Nigel Farage, he says that he's going to be taking the government to court for postponing next year's first ever mayoral election. So a set of inaugural elections have been postponed to 2028, with Downing Street citing the need for more time to reorganise councils. So Nigel Farage told The Telegraph, "We are actively pursuing a judicial review action against the government over yet another attempt to delay elections where they fear reform will win." The Conservatives leader also wrote on X that this is the second time Labor have cancelled elections. Democracy isn't optional. We will oppose this every step of the way. Mia, what's going to happen here?
Well, first of all, I think good on Farage for actually taking this challenge to the courts. I mean, just to highlight the hypocrisy of this whole thing, could you imagine if it was the party on the right who was delaying elections for blatant political purposes? There would be an absolute uproar. So where is the media on this? Once again, they are nowhere highlighting this problem because it's an absolute outrage. It is pretty clear that Starmer was not going to survive his leadership spill if he lost these two for elections, and it's also pretty clear that he probably was going to. Reform was surging ahead in the polls. So now it's clear that he's delayed those elections in an attempt to kind of save his own back. But the thing is, voters can see straight through this, and the people who are wanting to vote for reform were wanting to vote for reform because they wanted a change, and they are desperate for a change. So delaying those elections is going to do nothing except brew even more resentment amongst the community who are desperate to have their say to get their country back on track. So I think it's a very foolish move by Starmer, and I think good on Farage for taking it to the courts.
Donald Trump has reignited his feud with London's mayor, Sadiq Khan. The US president said that the mayor was a disaster, accusing him of doing a terrible job and saying that London is now a very different place. Let's take a listen.
If you take a look at London, you have a mayor named Khan. He's a horrible mayor. He's an incompetent mayor, but he's a horrible, vicious, disgusting mayor. I think he's done a terrible job. London's a different place. I love London. I love London. And I hate to see it happen. You know, my roots are in Europe, as you know.
Right.
And I hate to see that happen. This is one of the great places in the world, and they're allowing people just to come in and unchecked, unvetted.
Mia, we certainly always know what Donald Trump is thinking. He's never shy about it. Certainly not shy about his criticism either. But those comments that London is a different place now. I mean, just speaking to people I know that's over in Europe, people who have lived in London, people who are now coming out, a lot of people fleeing London, a lot agree with Donald Trump there. It's a different place.
It absolutely is a different place, and good on Trump again for calling this one out. He's a terrible mayor. He has fundamentally brought London to its knees, and that is very clear to say, and you'll see it through all the different statistics. Crime is out of control. Violent crime in particular is out of control. Knife crime out of control. London is one of the very few cities in the world that it's out of control. Look at housing, for example. He cut the number of police, and now the streets are being run by activists, and the mayor there just has no indication that he wants to get any of that under control. He's completely allowing the activists just to run the streets with protests, and it's exactly why there are so many people who are fleeing, and now it's not even just people in London who are fleeing, but people outside of London are saying, if you've got the means to go, it is time to go. It is terrible what's happened, and I'm not sure who's still voting for him.
Just finally, Tony Blair has been dropped from Trump's proposed Gaza Board of Peace. Now, this is reportedly following strong backlash from Arab states and backlash over Tony Blair's reputation in the Middle East. Mia, what's the reaction to this been?
Yeah, look, I know Tony Blair's name was floated around at the start of this peace deal, that he was somewhat instrumental to it. That part, I'm not too sure. Look, he certainly has a lot of baggage carrying on from his time as Prime Minister, especially with his politics to do with the Middle East. But look, I don't think this is going to derail the plan at all. I think the big feat was actually getting the plan on the table in the first place. And the second challenge is making sure peace is maintained. That is no small feat. It's going to be a huge challenge. So I don't think Trump is going to allow a character like Tony Blair to derail any of those plans, because fundamentally here, the goal is peace. And Trump's been very clear from the start that is what he wants. Unlike many other leaders around the world, Trump has actually put himself out there and has actually gone and done the hard yards to achieve these peace deals. So I can't imagine, just because this small crux of the plan has somewhat not even fallen through, perhaps taken a sidestep, that will derail the plans in any way. I just can't see it happening. I think it pales in comparison to the larger issue here, is that we all want to see peace in the Middle East.
And Donald Trump deserves so much credit for achieving that. I mean,
absolutely.
As you say, he's really put himself out there. He's achieved so much more in ending conflicts than anyone else. Mia Schlicht, Research Fellow at the Institute of Public Affairs, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
That is Power Hour. Thank you for your company. We'll see you next week. Make sure you subscribe to Sky News Australia on YouTube.